This episode today is sponsored by the Esoteric Academy, which is a virtual online mystery school. If you're looking for a place to explore your spirituality, to explore the ancient scriptures and text from the East, and learn how to apply these lessons to your modern day life, then the Esoteric Academy is the place for you. For only $25 a month, you have unlimited access to a library full of workout videos that incorporate ancient spiritual techniques into modern day movement. These workout videos not only give you a healthy body, but they also help you activate your chakra, understand your energy values, and become more grounded in your body. If you're looking for more than just the exercises, for $40 a month, you get unlimited access to all the exercise videos and access to many courses over the Bhagavad Gita, courses over the Yoga Sutras, courses over all the deep philosophy found in the Vedic text, as well as a deeper look at the Law of One and the Cassiopaeans. The Esoteric Academy also offers multiple meditations as well as a look at quantum healing. Each month you also get a live class with a master teacher on top of a live phone call and conversation with myself and other master teachers. Once you sign up for the Esoteric Academy, you do also get 7 days of a free trial to make sure that this platform is right for you. For more information on the Esoteric Academy, there is a link down in the description box below. Laura Knight's Cassiopaean experiments, often associated with the Cassiopeia material, involves the exploration of consciousness, spirituality, and the nature of reality. Through various methodologies, including channeling and psychic experiments, Knight and her collaborators sought to communicate with higher intelligences, particularly a group of entities referred to as the Cassiopaeans. The primary aim was to gain insight into the metaphysical questions, the nature of existence, and human development. The experiments included multi-session discussions that cover topics like multidimensional realities, free will, and the influence of higher dimensional beings on humanity. Knight recorded these sessions, which often contained profound philosophical and esoteric insights, and these records became part of a larger body of work that aimed to explore consciousness beyond conventional scientific understanding. The overall tone of the experiments reflect a blend of skepticism and deep inquiry into the nature of consciousness and our place in the universe. Laura Knight began her communication with the Cassiopaeans in 1994. She is still in communication with the Cassiopaeans to this day. If you would like a better understanding of the Cassiopaeans and their impact on humanity, I would highly suggest checking out the Wave series by Laura Knight, the Cassiopaean Forum, which a link will be provided in the description box below, or purchasing the book that I personally am reading from that contains all of the transcripts and conversations between Laura and the Cassiopaeans. The Cassiopaeans base the soul's evolution and consciousness on the spiritual template known as the Law of One. The Law of One is also known as the raw material. It is a series of philosophical texts that emerged from a series of channeling sessions conducted by Carla Rucker, Don Elkins, and Jim McCarthy in the early 1980s. The sessions involved channeling a consciousness known as Ra, who claimed to be a collective of extraterrestrial beings from the sixth density. The key concepts in the Law of One are unity and oneness. The central tenet of the Law of One is that all beings are fundamentally interconnected and are expressions of the same universal consciousness. The phrase, "we are all one," encapsulates this idea, emphasizing that unity is the essence of existence. It also covers the densities of existence. The material describes the cosmos as composed of multiple densities or levels of existence. Each density represents a stage of spiritual evolution, with humans currently experiencing a third density, which is characterized by lessons in love, understanding, and most importantly, making choices. We also seek to understand in the law of one soul evolution. According to Ra, souls undergo a process of evolution through these densities, learning and growing through various incarnations. The choice between these paths influences one's spiritual evolution and the experiences one encounters in life. There's also discussions of the role of free will. Free will is considered sacred, and individuals are encouraged to explore and make choices regarding their spiritual development without interference from higher beings. If you would like more information on the law of one, please make sure to check out the material for yourself. A link to all resources will be posted down in the description box below. But for now, let's get on with the show. And before we get into the reading today, you guys, I just want to give a great big shout out to all of our patrons and our producers here on Esoteric Atlanta. Without you guys, this channel would not exist. If you would like to help support Esoteric Atlanta, there is a link to our Patreon account down in the description box below. All right, you guys, welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. This is the final episode before Easter. And so this channel will be going dark until the 22nd of April, Tuesday, the 22nd of April. So basically just for 4 days, just because I know everybody's going to be with their friends and family, as will I. And so we will be back with a pretty big episode on Tuesday the 22nd. I think we're going to be doing the Isaac Cappy episode on Tuesday, April 22nd from the Cassiopean. So that'll give you something to look forward to. But because we are building up to Easter, I saved this one because I thought this one was just very, very fascinating. They're all fascinating, but this one especially, because as you guys know, I've been typing in particular trigger words into the search engine on the Cassiopeia transcript forum. And so I'll just type words in and see what comes up. And of course, typing the Pope in, a lot came up. And so I've been kind of going through some of them with you guys. This session is from the 7th of March, 1995. Once again, if you are not familiar with the Cassiopaeans, obviously I have an intro that I play with every episode for people who are unfamiliar with the Cassiopaeans. But for further information, Laura Knight has been talking to the Cassiopaeans for 31 years now, and they have not been wrong. And they've given us a lot of insight into what's happening right now on the earth at this moment. Well, it's been going on since the beginning, but right now we're at the crux. We're at that final push before we move into fourth density. And so this information I find to be vitally important coming from the Cassiopaeans. They are using the template of the law of one, or the raw material, which basically, Cliff Notes version, we're in third density right now. The whole point of third density, every density has like a point, and the point of third density is choice. This is the last stop before everything splits, either goes service to self or service to others, negative polarity or positive polarity. And so this is the template that the Cassiopaeans are working off of. And I just, I'm so happy you guys have had such a positive feedback going through these. I don't know why it took us so long to go through these. Why it took me so long. I've been talking about the Cassiopaeans for a very long time. I know I've been told some of you guys are actually joining the forum yourselves. That's awesome. I encourage you to join the forum so that you can join that group, and also get the Law of One and Laura Knight's other books, like the Writing the Wave series. So this is the first book in the Writing the Wave series by Laura Knight. There's a lot of books in the series, and that kind of gives you more of a background as to who Laura is, what she's learned. She goes into detail about some of these transcripts and like the bigger picture of what they're trying to say now, looking back all these years later. And so I would definitely encourage you to get those books. Obviously the forum is free. I'll put a link down in the description box below. You can just go to the forum and start digging for yourself. There's again, 31 years worth of information here. But I do like going through this with you guys, because part of what the Cassiopaeans tell us is they want us to network. And so part of what we're doing is we're looking at these questions and these answers and then having a discussion, or at least I'm having a discussion to the camera, and then I'm going back and reading your comments and your thoughts post filming. So again, I'm just the messenger. You don't have to believe. I mean, I've gotten a lot of weird comments about, so we have to take Cassiopaeans to be like the truth. No, you don't have to take anything to be the truth. That's the whole point of free will, right? All I'm doing is I'm presenting this to you guys on YouTube so that we have a different perspective, which is all this really is, right? It's a different perspective. I have a lot of faith in the Cassiopaeans. I have a lot of, because they've proven themselves, I have a lot of goodwill with them. But I know that when I first started looking at the Cassiopaean stuff, there was a couple times where I was like, I don't know if I believe that. And it took me a while to really think about it and really think about what they were saying and hear other people's perspective on what they were saying for me to go, okay, now I know, I get it. Now I get it. So if this stuff shocks you at first, it shocks a lot of people at first. But that's one thing I like about the Cassiopaeans, right? Like, they're not going to tell you stuff just because you want to hear it, right? They're going to just tell you the truth. And they don't care if the truth hurts your feelings. And if the truth of what they're saying does hurt your feelings or trigger you, then from my perspective, that's a good indication of where you're still indoctrinated or programmed. For me too. Like, whenever I feel myself going, oh, like, I have to go back and like say, okay, so you're still clinging on to some programming. Where did that come from? Let's revisit this. And so take everything with a grain of salt, but also hold on loosely, right? Like, listen to what's being said, take it in. It's, as Aristotle said, I've quoted Aristotle a lot in the 5 years on this channel. It's a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. Now, because I typed in the Pope, some stuff is going to come up in this reading about the Bible. And once again, I'm just going to reiterate, if that makes you uncomfortable, if us talking about the Bible and the truth behind the Bible, if the facts make you uncomfortable, then don't watch right now. Wait until you're more comfortable to be confronted with these facts. Please don't be, I have to say this all the time, because after 5 years on YouTube, the people who are the most violent and the most abusive are the Christians, hands down. I've never gotten any threats from Islamic people or Hindus or Jewish people or atheists even, but I've got a file full from Christians. And so I would ask you, if you're a Christian who gets triggered by this, to really consider, why is it that your religion is the one that has the biggest reputation for being the most violent? In my experience, that is true. Like, that is absolutely true. And so maybe consider that. Like, why does this religion make people react this way? Why can't you just sit down and listen to what they have to say? I will also say that God is not limited to a book. So if you think that God is limited to a book, then you have a bigger issue at hand. God is not defined by a book, especially one that's been edited as much as the Bible has. That's a fact. You can check that. That's a fact. I also would ask, too, that you look up who owns the copyright. The Windsors own the copyright to the Bible. Need I say more? You can only copyright something if you created it. So is this the word of God? Or is the Bible coming from the word of King James? And when I say the Bible, I mean like all Bibles. Because every single NIV, whatever type of variation you have, it's all coming from the King James Bible, which was written by the Freemasons and King James. And that's actually on the Freemasonry website. You can check that for yourself. So just some cognitive dissonance, like if you're experiencing that, which basically that means you're still believing the lie while you're seeing the truth. And just because the Bible is not true, just because the Bible is propaganda, it's not the word of God, does not mean that there isn't a God, and does not mean that there wasn't a Yahshua. Two things can be true, right? The Bible can be crap, but there could also be a God and be a Yahshua. They're not mutually exclusive, okay? So let's get into this from March 7th, 1995. And for 99.9% of the audience that's watching this who is totally on board with me, thank you so much. I'm having so much fun with this, and I thank you guys for being so open-minded and doing this with me, and I thank you for all of your conversations down in the comment section below. Keep spreading. I mean, that's the thing, right? I know I've said before, I know it's dangerous for me to put this stuff out, but I've already been through so much stuff on YouTube that was training day for this, right? And so please share this with your friends and family so that other communities can start conversations. I don't ever want to gatekeep information. I don't want to do that. So let's get going. So again, March 7th, 1995. So as I did with the 1994 stuff, March 7th of 1995. How old were you? I was 12. I had turned 12 on February 4th of 1995. I was in the, 6th grade. I think I said before, I obviously was so excited about turning 12 because I got to babysit, which just seems crazy to me now, right? Like the fact that 12-year-olds were literally put in charge of other children, like that's bananas. But where were you on March 7th of 1995? I was actually at this time, I was only a few months away, if that, maybe 6 weeks away from having my appendix taken out. And when I had I've done a video on that before. I'll tag that down below. When I had my appendectomy, I still have a huge scar going across my stomach, guys. It was wild because my appendix had gotten tucked up under my colon. And so back in the dark ages of 1995, now having your appendix out, it's like they do a laser. You really don't even have a scar now. I have a huge scar. But back then, I remember I was really, really sick. They did my white blood. They took my blood and my white blood count was up. And so they knew something was wrong. But because my appendix had gotten tucked under my colon, every time they did like an MRI or an X-ray, it didn't look like it looked like something was wrong with my colon and not my appendix. And so I literally sat in the hospital for days before they actually did exploratory surgery to see what was going on. And they only did the surgery because I lied to them, which that video is down below. They kept asking me if it hurt on my right side. It hurt everywhere. So I kept saying, no, it hurts everywhere. And then one day I just was in so much pain. I remember this like it was yesterday. I'm 42 now, but I remember this like it was yesterday. I told the nurse when she came in that it hurt on my right side because I just wanted them to do something. Next thing I know, I was being wheeled into surgery. But and I was so upset when I came out because then I was like, I lied. My parents were like, no, it's good you lied, because my appendix was like hours away from bursting. And I was in the hospital for a while. I think now a lot of appendicitis are outpatient. I was definitely in the hospital for a long time. And I had some complications after the surgery. You can watch that video, but I was leading up to this. I was gearing up to that time of being in the hospital at this age. So what were you doing at this time? Okay. So, March 7th, 1995, we have Frank Lara, SVMT, owner of a New Age center in Tampa. Mark, friend of Frank, son of Dane, as written about in Amazing Grace, a book she's written. Some of these people don't give their real names. I don't think Frank is the guy's real name. Obviously, when you see initials, it's not the real name. So I can totally understand that, right? Laura, that is her real name, Laura Knight. So, question, Laura, hello. Answer, hello. Who do we have with us? Who do we have with us tonight? Sigil? Again, you guys, I always say their names like in a question because I'm probably butchering them. They have the wildest names, these Cassiopaeans. So Sigil, S-I-J-I-L? Or is that two L's? S-I-J-L-L. Sigil? Where are my glasses? I don't want to become too dependent on my glasses, but maybe I should put them on. But I feel like I apologize to the Cassiopaeans because I feel like every time I say one of their names, I'm like, I don't know if that's how that's said. But that's somebody. And I think in one of the readings, Laura said that's when she knew they were getting, they had changed in their channeling because they used to get a bunch of like what they call dead dudes, ghost, and they would have normal names, like normal for our realm, like Mary, Tom. But when they started getting these funky names, they're like, oh, this is definitely not a dead dude. And where are you from? Cassiopeia, of course. We have some questions tonight. We were discussing earlier this evening the abomination of desolation as written by the prophet Daniel and also spoken of Jesus. What is this? Disinformation. Disinformation. So the abomination of desolation from the book of Daniel, and from Jesus, disinformation. Are you saying that the abomination of desolation is disinformation, or that the writing about it is disinformation? Both. Can you tell us anything to clarify this point? In what way? Who or what was the source of the information as prophesied by Daniel? The Aluma Shmati. The prophecies given to Daniel were disinformation. Close. Is there an abomination of desolation? There is. Is there abomination of desolation? There is anything if the definitions are unrestricted. Well, okay. Who are the Elohim of the Bible? Transdefinitive. What does that mean? Transcends definition and variable entities. Were the Elohim good guys? First manifestation was human, then non-human. Are they light being, as some people say? Vague. Well, what brought about their transformation from huma to non-human? I think they meant to say human here. The N is missing. So let's reread that again. Well, what brought about their transformation from human to non-human? Pact or covenant? They made a pact or covenant with each other? No, with fourth density STS. So that's service to self. So in the beginning, when I spoke about the polarity, so we're third density. And so we are either going to be harvested. They use the word harvesting. To me, harvesting sounds like a Stephen King novel, graduating basically. So you're either going to go service to self or service to others. Service to self would be the negative polarity. Service to others would be the positive polarity. In order to graduate service to others, you have to be 51% service to others. In order to graduate service to self, you have to be like 94% service to self. So that's why the wickedness of the world is as it is. So it's actually harder to graduate service to self as it is to graduate service to others. All right, so they made a pact. So whoever these Elohim were, they were human first and they became non-human. And they made a pact with these service to self fourth densities. And they asked if they're light beings and they said vague. And I think what they mean by that is sometimes entities or beings get tricked by fourth density service to self. We see that constantly. I mean, look at like the truther community, right? Like it's mostly service to self, right? It's mostly disinformation. So good people have gotten tricked into following and making pacts with not so great entities, and it's free will. So you can do what you want. No one's going to stop you. And so I guess what they're saying is these Elohim, again, we're human. They made a pact with the fourth density service to self. It's vague whether they're good or not, probably because there's a lot of nuance in the situation. I'd love to hear y'all's perspective on that. Well, that is not good. Are you saying that the Elohim are service to self? Who are these service to self beings they made a pact with? Rothstein now manifest as Rosicrucians. Isn't that interesting, you guys? The Rosy Cross. I've been studying the Rosicrucians off and on. My first ever video here on YouTube, which I don't even believe is still up, was over the Georgia Guidestones. And as many of you guys know, if you've been here for 5 years now, I lived 90 miles away from I was at the Georgia Guidestones like 7 days before they fell down. I've been out there 3 times. The third time, 7 days, they were gone. And so a lot of people in the whole mystery behind the Georgia Guidestones, which I have entered them into this search engine and I haven't really found much, was that the Rosicrucians were behind the Georgia Guidestones. And the Georgia Guidestones, their commandments at first glance don't seem that bad, but when you really start to think about what they're saying, they're talking about a one world government. And so I just think that's interesting, the Rosicrucians, because some people think the Rosicrucians are good, some people think they're bad, and it's just interesting that they are actually calling the Rosicrucian service to self. What was their purpose as yet unrevealed to you? That's heavy. Okay, what is the source of the keys of Enoch's teaching? James Hurtak claims that he was taken up to the higher realms and that the keys were programmed into him. Disguised reality. The place he was taken to, not a place, the message. What is the source of this disguised reality? Research. One here studies a bit too much to discover explosive reality trailblazings. Okay. Is there coded information in the book on several levels as M redacted suggest? There is coded information all over the place. Suggests slower pace of studying in order to discover each earth-shaking principles. Okay, that's interesting because I have the books of Enoch's, the keys of Enoch's here in my bookcase. And you guys know I've gone through a lot of the missing books of the Bible. I have not gone through Enoch because there's so many people who already go through Enoch. So I kind of, even though I've read through it, I kind of left that one off my channel. But they're basically, it seems like we've given the keys of Enoch or the lost gospels of Enoch, from what I'm reading here, maybe a little bit too much credibility. Like we think that there's something massively informative in Enoch, but they're saying like, actually this information is coded everywhere. Like they don't seem to be too excited about it. Like we've seen them get excited about other things. So I think that's fascinating. So they're saying there's coded information all over the place. It's not just an Enoch. You can, yeah, it's an Enoch too, but you know, and to take it slow. I 100% agree with this on that. It takes a moment for things to integrate, right? Like in the yoga world, for example, we call jnana yoga is like what we're doing now is informational stuff. It's knowledge that's shared through networking, through talking with others, through reading books. But as we've said before, knowledge, anybody can have knowledge. It's there for anybody who wants it. But wisdom is not available to everybody. It can be if the person puts effort in, because wisdom comes from effort. Yet knowledge comes from studying, wisdom comes from effort and lived choices. So when they're saying like slow down, I feel like what they're telling us is we need a chance to integrate these things. Kind of what I opened with, you know, like when people see some of these readings and they get so flabbergasted because the readings might totally contradict what they've learned before. But if you just slow down for a moment, plant the seed, let it integrate, then I think what they're saying is you're going to see other information start to reveal itself. Who is studying too hard? You. So they're telling Laura, slower would help. Remember the old parable about biting off more than you can chew? What are we supposed to do if not study? MT is resistant. To what? MT is one of the people in the group that's there. Why do you think you are having difficulty determining the course of your life? Resistant to what? So they're saying MT is resistant. Why do you think you're having difficulty determining the course of your life? So he's like, what am I resistant to? What obstacle is there in my way that's obviously been caused by me that's causing me difficulty determining the course of my life? The message about slowing down is it is important because it's hard to see the veins in the leaves when the car is traveling too fast to see the trees clearly. I like that. I like that. Who else needed to hear that? The message about slowing down, it is important because it's hard to see the veins in the leaves when the car is traveling too fast to see the trees clearly. Question, Laura. Well, she does seem to be living life in the fast lane, so to speak. Incorrect interpretation. It's not living life in the fast lane. It is trying to absorb too much too quickly. In other words, she's running on too rich a gas mixture. Clumsy analogy, but the right idea. MT, I'm not quite sure what is meant here. Metaphysics overload. It is a good path, but we suggest that you be more like the tortoise than the hare. Well, she's looking for a path where she can combine her studies and also make a living. Readings, therapies rather than teaching. Become the therapist rather than the therapy instructor. People crave individual attention. Have you not noticed? Well, I make a lot more when I read than when I teach. Bingo. How can I get more work in that respect? That will take care of itself when you network, which you are already adept at doing. Okay, there's a journalist coming here on Friday who wants to talk to me. So this is Laura. There's St. Pete Times, Tom French. So she's in the Tampa, Clearwater, St. Petersburg area. So a journalist is coming to talk to her on Friday. Answer, be open in your mind regarding the flow of the situation. You have a tendency to forget that all do not share your ability to expand consciousness so easily. So you mean he's going to be a real skeptic and I'm going to have to deal with validation issues? That is not the point. The audience will be looking for flaws in the materialistic reference point, so you must be cautious, lest you be made to look irrational. I think that's a really good point for a lot of us who are, obviously, if you're on this channel and if you've been on this channel, we're obviously kind of live our lives taking a perspective on the world that not many like normies do, right? I hate to use that word normies, but we're all pretty woo-woo on this channel. I know for me, I've talked a lot about my experiences with the paranormal and my seeking answers. And I think a lot of you are in the same boat. And so we forget, I know I do sometimes, that my lived experience isn't the same as somebody else's. So somebody else might not have the perspective that this stuff is legit because they just haven't experienced paranormal stuff, right? Like I think once you start experiencing paranormal stuff, you realize there's so much more to this world than we can see, hear, taste, feel. It's just, there's just so much more going on. And so we're more open to these kinds of things. So that's good for like, take it slow. You know, I get that a lot with people. We were talking about Christianity earlier, and I mentioned the copyright. Like I have so many people that have asked me in the past, because we were going through the missing books of the Bible and the Cassiopaeans. It's come out multiple times from multiple sources that the guy known as Jesus or Yahshua was never crucified. And so I have people that come from like super fundy backgrounds, and they're like, how do I tell my parents that, you know, Jesus was never crucified? And I'm like, I wouldn't start with that. Like, don't start with the big ones. Maybe start with something like, do you know that the Bible has a copyright on it? Like something little like that, that's just going to plant a seed in their head. Again, that taking it slowly, that's going to make them go, wait a minute. If this is the word of God, then why is there a copyright? And then they'll go, don't even tell them who owns the copyright. Let them go look it up for themselves. That might then lead them, if they realize the royal family owns the copyright to the Bible, that could very well lead them to going down their own rabbit hole and discovering that the Freemasons, who King James actually wrote the Bible, that they consider to be the word of God. And for them to find that experience, have that experience for themselves without you telling it, is going to leave more of an impact and create more of an awakening than you just telling them, right? So take it slowly, be rational, so that people can go on their own journey. And then also, that's also you know, I say this all the time, like on this channel, like my channel, Esoteric Atlanta, was set up to talk about weird shit, right? Like that's where we talk about it, is here. But in my real life, like off of YouTube, I'm not going around, you know, telling people that, like, I walk around Atlanta and I walk by churches all the time. I'm not paying attention. Like that's, you do you, boo. On this channel, we talk about weird stuff, but I'm a little bit more respectful of boundaries out in the real world. Right? Because you have a choice. If you want to be on this channel, you can be here. If not, you don't have to be here. This is where we talk about it. But in the real, so I hope that makes sense. So I think that's a really good lesson for all of us. So, well, then I guess better to not talk about exorcisms or anything like that. Balance. Okay, I will try to stay balanced. I don't want to have to leave the country. The funny thing is that she does end up moving to France. MT, I would like to know what my connection is with the Hindu temple. Nice people, but not your place. You needed the uplifting vibrations during a particularly stressful and disappointing period. Aw, I love Hindu temples. If you're new here, I spent a lot of my 30s in India studying, and I've spent a lot of time in Hindu temples. Hindu temples are very uplifting, very different from like Christian churches. They're very different, and they are very, very uplifting. MT, should I bring my bookstore back? Open. MT, can you suggest a way for me to find a place for my books? One last time, network, and all falls into place. Laura, has Mark been abducted? Open. Why won't you answer that? In another session, we will. Mark, can you indicate to me what I'm supposed to do in my career? Answer, career paths should be, as for everyone, that which is attractive, effortless, and painless. I like that. I feel like so many people have lost parts of themselves because they've taken jobs for the paycheck over the passion. And I know that's really hard to say. Like, and I've struggled financially, but I feel like every day I get up and I'm living my life. I'm not living my life for someone else. I'm living my life for me. Even though doing YouTube is a lot of work, like I lose my voice a lot and I'm teaching, I still like doing it, even though it's laborious. And I do have to take breaks from time to time from burnout, but I love to do it. I love connecting with you guys. And when things are aligned, things just open up for you, and it should be painless. I mean, painless to an extent. Like I said, I do get tired. I think we all get tired. We're humans. Like we run out of energy. But it's not like I don't dread getting on camera and talking to you guys. I don't dread teaching a yoga class. I don't dread any of it. I enjoy it. I actually enjoy going to work, whether that's work in the shala or work here in my set that's actually in my bedroom at my house. I enjoy it. So I really want, I know a lot of people are at this place in their lives as we're coming to this age of Aquarius, this moving into fourth density, where people are really starting to question the path of the matrix. Like before now, we were just told, like, get the good job that pays the bills and you'll be fine. But so many people are so unhappy, even though they might have all the money in the world or have everything. And so maybe for right now, because we are at Easter, Ishtar, we know from, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, we know that this is like the start of the new year, the real start of the new year, not the new year we celebrate. So maybe this is the time for people, if you're watching this, to reflect on this, like what they're saying. Career paths should be, as for everyone, that which is attractive, effortless, and painless. And so I would ask you, when I was growing up, and I'm only saying this, I know I've gotten to know so many of you, and I know so many of you are just so like weighted down with your responsibilities and your love for your family and wanting to provide, and you're trying to figure out a way to not do a job that's killing your soul, but find a job that you actually love that can also help support your families. And when I was like in the 8th grade, I remember my best friend growing up. I was at her house. She's still a friend of mine. I won't say her name because she's not a public person, but I remember her dad said to us and we were like in the 8th grade. So we still had at least 4 years before university and before having to pick a major and find a career. He said, if fear wasn't an option, if you couldn't fail, if there was no way that you could fail, what would you do? So I'm going to ask you guys that. I'll also say, if money wasn't an option, if you couldn't fail and money wasn't an option, what would make you so excited about getting up every day and living your life? My grandfather was a surgeon. One of my grandfathers was a surgeon. And so this might be easier for him to say, but he loved his job. He used to tell my mom, he passed away when I was 4, but he would tell my mom, who then in return would tell us growing up, that if you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. If you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. So for me, I feel like I don't really work because I do what I love. I love doing this. All right. So whoever needed to hear that, if I were you, I would write that down, stick it on a sticky note in your bathroom or something so you see it every single day. Life is short here on planet Earth. Life is hard here on planet Earth. We're supposed to be in this duality, this friction. So with that being said, as my boyfriend says this a lot, like, we only suffer because so we'll change, right? That's the only reason why we have suffering, is because it then motivates us to change. And so if you're at a point in your life where you're suffering, then what can we do to shift that for you, where your career becomes attractive, effortless, and painless? Yeah. And if you guys, I mean, like for me, I'm lucky. I have a very supportive partner. I know some of you don't have that, but we do have the Esoteric Atlanta Shadow Work group on Signal. It's a private group. Just go on the Signal app, type in EA Shadow Work. I'm not in there that much because I intentionally am not in there that much because I want people, I'm very paranoid about the whole cult thing. I don't want people to I've got lots of moderators, great moderators in there. It's a private group. And so if you need that support, because that's what it is. Like when you realize that your suffering is killing you, it's killing your soul, and you need to change. Like, that's the whole point, right? Is to then find that shift and that change. But if you feel like you don't have a support system or someone to talk to help you figure out like what you need to do, then join our shadow work group. We'd love to have you. There's so many amazing people in the shadow work group on Signal, the Signal app, right? So it's just a Signal app. If you guys, whatever phone you have, it looks like this. There's a little Signal app. It's blue, right? EA Shadow Work, EA. And there you go. It's private again. Nobody can see outside the group. It's all private. So let us know what we can do. If you're somebody who's in a position where you're like, man, I really need to, like, you're having that prativa, that flash of illumination, then let us know what we can do to support you. and to help you figure out what you can do. There's great people in that group. Great friendships have been made in that group. And so join us. Laura, in terms of material activities, what would be the best course for Mark to follow in his healing process right now? Don't follow. Not following anything is a key. It's up to the individual. Could you give us a few words, the potential in each of us for the greatest forward movement or growth? We cannot tell any one of you this because then you would not learn. And if you do not learn, you do not progress as an individual soul. Is there such thing as a soul number, as someone we know has been told? Only if you want there to be. Time to say good night, Gracie. Good night. End of session. All right, you guys, that was from the 7th of March, 1995. What do you think of that? What do you think about the book of Daniel being Illuminati disinformation? That's interesting, right? Because a lot of people quote the book of Daniel because there's a lot of UFO and stuff in there. So what are your thoughts on that? That's a very different perspective. It doesn't surprise me. I'm not surprised by that. So I hope you guys have a wonderful and happy Easter with your friends and family. And to all the kiddos out there watching right now, I know I've got a few kids that watch. I hope the Easter Bunny treats you really well. And we'll see you guys back here on Tuesday, April 22nd.